Imagine a Bronze Age Manhattan or a modern-day Dubai 4,000 years ago. This was Ur of the Chaldees, not just a city, but the absolute pulsating center of human civilization. It was a place where the wheel was more than a tool. It was the engine of a perfectly oiled bureaucracy. In the streets of Ur, writing was perfected to track the immense wealth flowing through its gates. This was the pinnacle of Bronze Age technology, a zone of total comfort where every chaos was managed by a wall or a canal. Massive, towering walls guaranteed a safety that the rest of the world could only dream of. Sophisticated irrigation canals ensured an abundance of food, while trade caravans brought luxuries from the furthest reaches of the known world. It was an elite existence, and Abraham was right at the center of it. He wasn't a wanderer yet. He was part of the city's upper echelon, with status, wealth, and a future that seemed as solid as the ziggurats. He lived in a world where every question had an answer provided by the state or the stars. Ur was overflowing with divinity. Idols stood on every corner, in every marketplace, and in every home. Nana, the moon god and protector of the city, looked down from his high temple, demanding worship and constant sacrifice in exchange for the city's prosperity. The world was clear, predictable, and incredibly crowded. Yet, amidst the noise of the rituals and the glitter of the gold, Abraham began to hear something that his peers could not: a profound, deafening silence. It was a void that thousands of clay statues and silver idols could not fill. He realized that this great, glittering city was not the top of the world, but a golden cage that traded truth for comfort. To find the reality behind the facade, he had to do the unthinkable. He had to open the door and step into the abyss of the unknown. In Ur, the Manhattan of the Bronze Age, life was a transaction with the divine. Every natural force, every star, and every human impulse was assigned a face of stone or gold. It was a world of visible, predictable power, where people lived in a constant state of spiritual debt. Safety was bought with rituals. Life was bartered for with clay statues. Every action required a negotiation with a deity. Abraham's rebellion was the most radical act in human history. He emptied the ski. He introduced the concept of a God who has no body, no image, and no fixed location. This was not just downshifting or a move to the desert. It was a total declaration of independence for the human mind. By removing the physical idols, Abraham created a space for absolute, unvarnished truth. He replaced the noise of 1,000 gods with the terrifying and beautiful silence of the One. This shift birthed the very concept of the individual. If God is invisible and singular, then every person stands alone before the infinite, responsible for their own moral choices rather than the whims of a temple priest. Abraham didn't just find a new God, he discovered the human soul. Leaving Ur meant more than leaving a city. It meant leaving a system that gave a name to every fear. In the desert, there were no statues to hide behind. There was only the voice and the man. He traded the visible security of Mesopotamia for a liberating silence, proving that the most important question for humanity isn't what we worship, but whether we have the courage to stand alone in the void and listen. Abraham left the idols behind, but he carried a conflict within his own tent that would shape the geopolitical map of the world for the next 4,000 years. The story of the three religions is not just about theology, it is about a family drama. It begins with two sons, Ishmael, the firstborn of the bondwoman Hagar, and Isaac, the miracle child of the princess Sarah. When Hagar and Ishmael were sent away into the harsh desert of Paran, it seemed like a death sentence. But this was the moment of the first great divergence. Ishmael did not die. God heard his cry in the wilderness and made a separate, distinct promise. He would become a great nation, a wild and free people, unconquered and vast. This was the seed of the Arab nations, the spiritual ancestors of Islam. While Isaac remained in the tents to inherit the covenant of law, Ishmael went into the deep desert to master the covenant of survival and submission. For centuries, history focused on Isaac's line, but the banished son was not forgotten. He was thriving in the silence of the Arabian Peninsula, carrying the original, raw monotheism of his father, a faith stripped of rituals, temples, and priesthoods. The tension between the son of the tent, Isaac, and the son of the desert, Ishmael, is the tension that defines the Middle East today. It was here in the sand that the roots of the three great trees began to pull apart. One man sought silence in a desert tent and became the loudest, most persistent voice in human history. He wanted a single well in the sand, and he inherited the stars. Abraham, the first downshifter and the architect of our future. Through Isaac and his son Jacob, the first clear operating system was installed. Judaism. Abraham's general discovery of the one God was codified into a specific national mission. The abstraction of the voice became the solidity of the law. This branch took Abraham's insight and built a fence around it. They believed that to keep the truth alive in a pagan world, it had to be guarded by a specific people, in a specific land, with specific rules. The focus shifted from the individual to the nation. The logic was simple. If everyone is responsible for everything, no one is responsible for anything. So the descendants of Isaac took on the burden of being the witness. They introduced the world to the concept of objective justice. God was no longer a force of nature to be appeased, but a moral legislator to be obeyed. They created a society where even the king was not above the law. This was the birth of the Western legal tradition. The Jewish root proved that a spiritual idea could survive without an empire, without a land, and even without a temple, as long as it was written in the hearts of a people bound by a covenant. For 2,000 years, the God of Abraham belonged largely to the people of Abraham. But the seed planted on Mount Moriah held a secret that would eventually break the ethnic container. The story of the sacrifice of the Son became the blueprint for the second great religion, Christianity. Christianity took the Jewish operating system and removed the firewall. It revisited the moment of the ram in the thicket, the substitute provided by God, and universalized it. The logic shifted from law to grace. You didn't need to be born into the tribe of Isaac to connect with the God of Abraham. You just needed to accept the sacrifice. This was the explosion that carried Abraham's name from a small strip of land in the Levant to Rome, Europe, and the Americas. Christianity democratized the divine. It took the ethical rigor of Judaism and combined it with a radical, universal love. It taught that the chosen people was no longer a biological lineage, but a spiritual community open to Greeks, Romans, slaves, and kings. It was the moment Abraham truly became the father of many nations, not by blood, but by faith. 6 centuries after Christianity, the third branch emerged from the deep desert, tracing its lineage back to the banished son, Ishmael. Islam was not a new invention. It claimed to be a correction, a return to the absolute, uncompromised system restore of Abraham's original vision. The Prophet Muhammad looked at the world and saw that the pure message had been cluttered. Christians had complicated God with the Trinity. Jews had restricted God to a tribe. Islam came as a thunderous reminder of the oneness, Tawhid. It bypassed the complex theology of grace and the intricate details of the law to focus on a single, primal action: submission, Islam. This is the religion of the vertical line, a direct, immediate connection between the slave and the master. There are no intermediaries, no complicated redemption arcs, just the absolute sovereignty of God. Islam took the God of the desert, the God Ishmael knew in his thirst, and reminded the world that he is great, Allahu Akbar, beyond all human comprehension. It turned the faces of billions not to Jerusalem, but to the ancient shrine Abraham built in the desert, the Kaaba.